Take the pain out of ordering your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is probably going to cost you less than what you're paying today. Diathrive is so convinced that you'll love their service, they're offering your first month of supplies free. Simply type the code DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's D-I-A, thrive.com.
All things food service, recipes, and restaurants. Spoony.
Hey folks, this is Chef Patrick Mosher, better known as the Food Biz Pro, here on Spoony Radio. We have shows regarding food, food culture, the restaurant business, consulting services for businesses, startups of all sorts, not just the restaurant industry. We talk about travel, food destinations. It's a lot of food, fun, and family. Mike from the World Food Championships will be coming on, giving us a weekly update on Saturday afternoons on what's new in the world of food sport. Yes, folks, I said food sport. No, it's not where competitors walk into Kitchen Stadium and beat each other to death with a limp fish. It's where you have 2,000 events which lead to the World Food Championships. Join us for the World Food Championship updates every week. Join us on Spoony on the Dash Radio Network, 24/7 Food Talk Radio.
We're not solving all the world's problems, but we're bringing people to the table. Spoony, food and fun. We're not solving all the world's problems, but we're bringing people to the table. Spoony.
Sorry if you didn't hear that. Let me say it again. We have a studio. We have all right, I lied earlier. If you've been on Facebook and checked out the Spoony Radio page, we actually have a it's not the best video, but we have me up on video. Welcome back, Spoony listeners. It is Monday, Tuesday. It's Tuesday. We're off on Monday again. Man, I got to stop doing that. Anyway, if you are taking a look here at the studio, if you're able to watch on Facebook Live, we actually have our own studio. Yep. I know the other guys are probably anxious to get rid of us out of the other studio, but
good afternoon, Spoony listeners. Hey, good afternoon. Chef Patrick Mosher here.
Begged and pleaded and wanted to do it, but I had to tell him no. Not today.
For a couple days. Well, one
this
day.
Is
I don't know if
you
you saw the pictures yesterday on Facebook, but
an actual real chef had to do the first broadcast. So anyway, welcome back, listeners.
We do have lights.
Well into the new year. I don't even know what the date is. Around
we do have action.
10th, something like that.
And I'm
sure we're all well
covering
into
for Doc
New
again. I
Year's
don't know where the hell he
resolution
is, but
diets that
apparently
we
he's on
pretend we're
vacation.
going to
Mental,
follow every
physical,
year.
otherwise.
Anyway, we are back and live. There is a fantastic product out there. It's called. I take my headphones off. I'm hearing some of the music in my headphones, so I will just go ahead and improvise this for a minute. And also that your body. This is the fun stuff to take the edge off. That we do live every day, and. Thanks for following. Anyway, so I was looking at the headlines today, and there's some really interesting stuff coming up in food trends. One of the things I noticed, though, is that this may have actually been written by an Asian guy, these top 10 food trends for 2019, because I noticed all 10 food trends that he thinks are going to be booming in 2010, or 2019 rather, all 10 of them are Asian influenced. Wait. There are two that aren't. I'm sorry. My mistake. Two, possibly three. Kind of. There's two. The two are further down the list. But to start with, actually, this is not by an Asian guy. This is by Heather Matthews. Now, Heather, I don't know you, but perhaps you love Asian food and cuisine, and maybe that's your favorite go-to. But Number 1, or number 10 on the list, rather going backwards, are katsu. And if you've never had katsu before, it's a fried Japanese cutlet. Now, it says here Japanese fried pork cutlet, but it's not a fried pork cutlet, it's any cutlet, right? Tonkatsu is fried pork cutlet. A chicken cutlet would be a chicken katsu, right? So, katsu is got a very special breading on it. I don't know if you've ever had it before. If you've ever had like a Japanese rice bowl or a Japanese like blue plate special, what we call a bento box at a restaurant. So a bento box typically has 2 or 3 pieces of sushi. It'll have some pickled vegetables, pickled items, and then it'll have a fried item typically, or maybe grilled fish, or typically salmon. Sometimes it'll have teriyaki beef or teriyaki chicken. But katsu is my favorite. Oh, you may have tempura shrimp or tempura vegetables as well. So katsu is a really lightly breaded. It's got it has panko bread crust, and the way to get this to stick, obviously like any other breadcrumb, is you first dredge the protein in flour, then you put it in an egg wash, and the reason you put the flour on there is that there has to be something dry for the egg to stick to, right? So it's a 3-step egg wash: flour, egg, and then you're breading. Then after that, hey, we are back. All right, now I can hear myself. All right, you know what? Ooh, I can almost hear myself think. That's scary. So anyway, to make katsu, you triple breading stage. You have flour, egg wash, the breadcrumbs, and then you deep fry the product. And it should be really thin. It shouldn't take very long to cook, maybe a minute. Once it's cooked, you cut. Now, the Japanese way of doing this is to cut the tonkatsu, especially if it's pork, it's ton. You cut this into strips about 3/4 of an inch wide, and then just whatever the width of the product is, which is typically, it's like a 5-inch circle of pork cutlet. And then that's served over rice. And sometimes it has a little cabbage salad on the side. If you've ever seen that in a Japanese restaurant, it's really finely shredded. And then it can have a number of toppings, but typically it's tonkatsu sauce. Tonkatsu sauce is a kind of a really rich mix of oyster sauce and a few other deep, like it's got soy sauce, oyster sauce, a little sugar, a bunch of spices and seasoning. It's a really dark, rich sauce that they serve on the top, and some places make their own. A lot of Japanese restaurants do. Anyway, tonkatsu, my number 2 favorite Japanese food behind sushi. That's not true. There's one called katsudon, which is a fried pork cutlet that's sliced like this is, and then placed in a pan with a little bit of broth, a sweetened dashi broth, which we talked about the other day. And this dashi broth is basically just a really light fish broth. It's got a little bit of soy sauce in it, and then it'll have just a little bit of sugar in there to sweeten it up. So that broth is ladled in after the katsu is put in there, and as it comes to a boil, you take a scrambled egg and you pour it over the top of the entire mixture, and then you just let it cook. And then you garnish that with some scallion, some sliced green onion, and then that whole thing gets poured out over the top of a bowl of rice, and that's called tonkatsu, or a katsudon, like a katsu fried pork cutlet. Don is like a bowl, like a donbori. That is by far the number 2 favorite meal. So we have sushi, katsudon, and then tonkatsu, which is just the regular fried pork cutlet over rice with a little cabbage salad or whatever's on the side. All right, that's the number 10 trend they think for this year. I'm not disagreeing with that one. I really think that simple Japanese food is going to become a very popular American favorite this year. For the last 20 years, we've seen all these extremely expensive, really fancy Japanese restaurants take hold and really kind of, What are you doing in here, dude? Wait. Sorry. Hey, welcome.
Is this on?
You know, I got a glass.
Don't mind me.
I have a glass on my desk out there.
That's the one.
No, I have an empty glass.
Don't mind me. I'm just drinking.
I have an empty glass on my desk out there.
Simple Japanese food. Explain how.
Explain how? Explain. Simple Japanese food. Wow. There's so many really simple pickled dishes. There's number 1 for center of the table. So a Japanese meal is comprised of typically dinner, 7 or 8 different dishes. 2 or 3 pickled items.
And that's standard?
That's standard.
Okay.
Like a simple Japanese dinner.
Okay.
One of them, and then you'll have something with miso paste in it, right? So you have like a fish that's been roasted, diced up, and then tossed with miso and some other sesame seasoning.
Nice.
Sesame seeds, sesame oil. In addition to that, you'll have rice. You'll have typically a salad or 2, cold salad.
Soup?
Almost always miso soup.
Okay.
Miso soup, fish, rice, that's basic breakfast.
Okay.
All right. And then you may have something like a fried food. Fried foods are typically a very small portion of the meal, and you tend to eat those first to kind of fill you up before you get into the main course.
And then everything else cleanses you too. That's a big cleansing thing.
Yeah, and also you don't have to eat as much, right? If you eat 2 or 3 pieces of fried food before you start your meal, like if you go to a Japanese place that has great tempura, I can't believe you didn't bring me a damn glass. Come on, man. That's Texas Crown.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In a flag bag.
In a flag bag. Yeah. Let your flag by, or your crown flag by.
That's right.
Fly. But so you eat that little bit of tempura or something before you have the meal, and it's much better. you don't have to spend as much, which is the key in Japan. Food is very expensive in Japan. Ramen's like $20 or $30.
I mean, they don't have land, so they don't have as many crops and as much animal and livestock. That's always
And
been part of the problem.
they have nearly half the population of the United States in that tiny island. That island, by the way,
Is the population that big?
so it used to be 120 million when I was there.
So it's got to be close to
And
150
that
or
was
60, right?
20-something years ago, right? So it's pretty close to that. It's got to be, their population growth is not as fast as ours, right?
In fact, now they're having some trouble with that.
They're stagnant.
Right. But still, I didn't realize they were that
Yeah,
popular.
it's 125 million. You have all those people scrunched into a space, a land mass area. That's the same as California, Oregon, and half of Washington State.
So
if you
pretty
take
much
everybody
just the
west-
West Coast states.
everybody west of the Mississippi and shove them into those three states. Wow. That's pretty close to what it is.
Wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I think you're right, but I would say too, I think part of the trends in the future isn't just simple Japanese food. I think it's probably going to be ethnic foods across the board.
I agree.
Because more diversity and ethnicity and people trying stuff, especially with younger generations. But what else do they want? They want clean foods and simple foods. So you combine all of those, and what do? You get those ethnic foods, especially ethnic dishes that are automatically cleaner and simple.
Well, and flavorful, right?
And flavorful.
They don't alter the ingredients very much. So Taiwanese fare is number 9 on the dish.
The problem with Thai food in America is
not Thai.
Taiwanese. I say Thai.
So by Taiwanese, this is kind of a it's kind of a mixed bag. But if you think about the
Taiwan
variety,
has a very diverse culture.
yeah,
Indonesian
it
food.
does. But when you think about the diversity of like a dim sum restaurant, where they have like 100 different dishes on the menu, and they come around with the carts. That, in essence, to some extent, is Taiwanese food, right? They have this great variety of food, but they have really strong and really mild flavors at the same time, with a bunch of different preparations: steamed, fried, roasted.
Problem with Thai food, Thailand, Thai food in
which I
America,
love.
which is awesome. The quality has dropped dramatically.
Absolutely.
With the popularity and Thai food over the past 20 years became very popular, and more so than Korean or Chinese and a lot of stuff. The Americans love it. It's flavorful, it's sweet, it's spicy, the whole thing. But everybody threw it up, and the quality, both the flavor. Threw it up. Just threw up restaurants. The quality, both the flavor and the quality of the ingredients, how healthy, are horrible. So if you shop around, you go to a good Thai restaurant, it stands out.
No, I completely agree. And so one of the big things was, so I opened a restaurant in Denver called Hairiki Asian Cafe. I was hired to be their chef there. They had done some Thai street food restaurants in Chicago. They had 3 locations, and they wanted to do a full service restaurant there. And it was great. I mean, the food was awesome, but it took us forever to source the product. We had to petition like Cisco and these other providers to get dark soy sauce. Otherwise, we had to go to grocery stores and buy this stuff, and it's too expensive for you to make any money. And it made a big, like, sweet soy sauce, dark soy sauce. They had this one called there's like a light, earthy soy sauce, mushroom soy sauce, things like that. You couldn't buy those from vendors back then. That was 20 years ago. It was 21 years ago. So that kind of stuff, yeah. I know. I know. I know. It's like, why is it there? I know.
I was like,
I was doing that earlier.
Like,
I was doing the same thing. But hey, it looks good, right? It's all about appearances. Perception is real. So we're a little behind on Facebook Live. I'm looking. You're barely walking in here. I'm like, oh, there's a ghost back there. It's like a second showing.
but it was hard to source the stuff back then.
It really was, and it still is now to some extent.
I know. Try to find Thai basil.
It's really hard to
It's
find
difficult
unless you go
to an Asian market or one of these world markets. Have you ever been to? Is it Jungle Jim's? Jungle Jim's in Cincinnati. Have you ever heard of it?
You know what? I haven't. But,
Oh my God!
What is Jungle Jim's?
I think it's Jungle Jim's. The name is escaping me. I think it's Jungle Jim's. It's they started southeast of Cincinnati, and the guy I think started out selling in the 70s like melons on the street corner.
Really?
You know, like
So
a
he's a
gas
pimp?
station. What's that?
So he's a pimp?
Yeah, exactly. Selling the melons, just producing that out there, and developed this market, and it's grown and grown and grown, and it became this world market. So they have your traditional American stuff in there, but then they have almost like a Whole Foods or something where they have an olive bar and all of this and a cheese.
I love that.
And he sells especially cigars in there and liquor and booze.
That's awesome.
But then he's got an entire truly Italian section, and truly Korean
So it
section.
became like a food hall almost.
It is, and it's so you can go there now. It's not as if you go and look through the Asian cuisines, like if you go to a Korean market like an H Mart or Lotte,
They have a million
products.
It's crazy.
They have one aisle for Korean, but it's still more than you get elsewhere. But you go there, their produce section is immense. So they have a lot of fruit. Like what is the smelly one?
Durian.
Durian. They have those.
Have you had that before?
I have not. I've always wanted to. They have
It's
Thai
not as bad
basil
as
there.
smell. Thai basil is
Fantastic. So I had asked them, like, when I try to make Asian basil dishes, they don't come out. They're like, you need Thai Asian basil. It stands out. So, but they have it there. But they opened another location north of town in Cincinnati, and I'm just escaping me with town. But it is huge and it's fantastic. So if you are anywhere in the region, make the drive to Cincinnati area.
What's it called again?
I think it's Jungle Jim's. Everybody in the region.
How can I not remember that?
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's this crazy
Might be a
theme.
mental block from childhood. I'm not sure.
He's got like old robotic characters from like amusement parks up on the stands,
Really?
on top of stuff. It's an adventure in there.
Those shopping experiences are really what kind of form. I mean, they can have a huge impact on you, not just emotionally, but palate-wise. Right?
Oh yeah.
I think. So have you been to Italy in Manhattan? Have you heard of Italy?
I've heard. In fact, you've told me about it. And it's a kind of consignment shop.
Yeah, so
it's a rented space.
It's a giant indoor food hall, right? That's all Italian based. So when you walk in,
Although that's prepared foods, right?
well, no, when you walk in, there's a grocery area. That grocery area, well, it's a mix. On the right and left, you walk in, and this is the old one in South Manhattan. Trying to think of the area, Midtown. Right. So when you walk in, there are desserts on the right and the left. Right, and then some packaged stuff down the center aisles, and it kind of goes. And there are some other more specialty items. This is more like kitschy, not kitschy stuff. I don't want to say, but more maybe holiday themed things, decorative stuff, things like that, along with some packaged and fresh desserts that are made right there. Then as you go through that area, you go down the staircase, and it opens up into this big food hall. This is all the prepared food. They have a rotisserie chicken place, right, and then they have a place that just does pasta, and they have all these big, long kind of picnic style but high tables that you can stand at or sit at, and they'll deliver your food to you or you can dine at those tables. And they have like 20 different concepts there. And then they go into more fresh foods where they have like a butchery. You can buy your Italian cured meats, you can buy the fresh meats, things like that. And then it opens up into this very cool grocery store area where you can buy all your dried pastas, sauces, everything that you need as staples for real Italian cooking at your home.
Well, it's so funny because so many of us that are foodies, let's go find the local place. We're on the road, and you go to Yelp or one of these, and you go, let me find that local thing to try to find something unique and good or whatever. We do that. But even though we're very open to food, how often do you seek out completely different experiences? You normally look by restaurant as opposed to like ethnic communities or something like that. Or as I mentioned, some of the Asian grocery stores. And if you go into any of these very ethnic communities or restaurants and you sit down and you just go, listen, I just want to sample. Tell me, explain.
Yeah.
They are so thrilled that you're interested and curious. And usually you get amazing service. They're going to tell you what is this, and they'll explain
Absolutely.
it. It's great.
Yeah, and and it's becoming more popular for us to venture out, Americans in general, to expand their palates, try something new. And I love it as a person who loves to feed people and share my passion for food. It's definitely a kind of a really shining moment for American culture right now. Because America, when I lived in Europe 30 years ago, 30 plus, people saw us as the land of hamburgers, pizza, spaghetti and meatballs, and cereal. That was really where we were identifying fast food, right? McDonald's. And now we have a lot of Michelin-starred chefs, restaurants in this country. Which
Which is so funny because I think most of us recognize that was the perception, and still is probably to a degree.
But that's changing. We're a leader in the food.
True, but what they didn't get at the time was truly American food. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, we would go to, like a young kid, we would go to a McDonald's or something like that once in a while.
Oh, I never would.
When I was probably 7, we went a couple times a year. That was it. And that's where we went. No other fast food. And we would get pizza at that point maybe a couple times a year. My mom cooked. So their perception was this, and she made spaghetti and that, but she made stew. That was something lots of vegetables. I mean, because we had a garden.
We had a huge garden.
I'm trying to think what other staples when I was really young.
Salisbury steak or Swiss steak.
Okay,
Swiss steak.
she would make some sort of meat. Sometimes meatloaf would be a solid.
Roast beef was a big one for us. Meat, things like that.
Gravy. So my mom did a lot of different gravies, but it was like country food, stuff like that. Yep. My mom would make 60 different types of gravy.
Hearty and very filling, right?
Yeah. She makes one called a hamburger gravy that she would make.
Really?
And it was so simple. It was just
brown sauce and gravy.
Yeah, but it was more creamy. So it was more like a sausage biscuits gravy, sausage gravy, but with ground beef. And when she made it, and this is one of my problems when you get sausage biscuit gravy, it's like paste. It's really thick.
It is. It's too thick.
So she would brown the ground beef, I'm going from memory, salt the hell out of the stuff, and lots of salt and pepper and garlic, right? And then take the beef out, and then put some onions in the pan and grill those out, right? So
in the grease from it.
Right, in the grease from it. And she had all those drippings and fat in there. And then she would add some cream, or half and half or something like this. And she made the gravy, and then thicken it up with the flour.
And that one of the things with when you go to a restaurant, you get biscuits and gravy, is that gravy's been sitting for a while.
And it's
well, yeah, but I mean, look, chefs out there or cooks, whoever owns the restaurant, put that gravy in a pan, loosen it up a little bit though with water or milk, just bring it back to life a little bit,
right,
and then put it back over.
But I mean, so think about this. So you put the meat back in it or whatever.
It's like chipped beef and toast, right? It was basically SOS, but without the
right. But cream chip beef on toast is kind of a different flavor palette.
Well, but that because it has to do with the corned beef.
Yeah, because it's the corn, right? The corned beef. But this was really good, and you put that over just pieces of bread or biscuit or toast. That's amazing. And then she would do.
So you didn't bring me a glass. You didn't bring. You didn't bring me anything to eat because, of course, I never eat before the show.
We've got to make our list of forgotten dishes. Patrick and I have talked about these dishes that it's just natural. Things fall out of favor. I just heard my son, who lives with his mom and stepdad, said for New Year's Eve, he goes, they made, because they're foodies, made beef Wellington.
We talked about how difficult it is to make.
So I asked him, I go, how did they make it? Did they put the pate in and different stuff? And we talked about it, whatever. We got to make our list. I just thought of another one. Chicken a la king.
Oh, man.
And it's awesome.
Nobody does that anymore.
No. It has peas and carrots with it.
Yes, and then but it's got that sauce. That sauce that goes
makes it.
Oh, man. It's got peas, carrots.
And the peas and carrots just a little bit sweet with it is awesome.
Yeah.
Was that traditionally over a biscuit type thing, right?
Well, it depends on where you came from. It was over rice, probably. So that's kind of like that.
Is that an American or is that a French, bastardized French dish? That's what it seems like.
Well, it sounds like it may have been a mix, right? So the peas and the carrots tell me it could have been of Asian descent. And it was served over rice or wherever it happened to be. But I don't know the history, but I'll find out.
It makes it seem like it may have been
a French sauce over it, yeah.
Although
would you shred the chicken up?
Chicken Royale.
Yeah, serve the shot of Chambord. So, yeah,
exactly,
like a Kir Royale.
But that'd be a good list
funny.
of just fun stuff in the challenge.
Chicken Royale. Poulet Royale. Poulet Royale. Yeah. Poulet Royale. Poulet Royale.
All right, I'm going to get back to drinking.
All right, cheers. Thanks. Yep. Appreciate it. Thanks, Doc. Yeah, thanks. He's going to give me his cold, too. All right, so it was interesting when I started reading the list, and I always love having Doc drop in, and I told him I wanted this whole week just for myself, by the way, to relaunch Spoony on video in our own studio, but he doesn't seem to get the hint. He still wants to be in the studio, and I keep telling him no. But actually, he's working on real important stuff for our channel, getting some broadcasting stuff together so we can make a huge launch here in the next couple of weeks. But back to number 8. We got a couple minutes left. Back to number 8. So food from the stands. Food from the stands is going to be one of the popular food trends this year. Well, food from the stands is. It took me a minute to figure that out, but they're talking about some of the Baltic countries, some of the areas in the former Soviet Union, like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan. I'd like to tell you what that food is, but I don't know all of it. But a lot of it is they're using whole animal. So they serve all parts of the cattle, right? So beef, when it comes to beef, they serve the tongue. They'll serve other glands that we don't typically eat in the United States, unless you're eating fancy French food. But they use some very interesting and really flavorful seasonings. They use chive, garlic, spinach, parsley, tarragon, which is one of my all-time favorites, has a very mild licorice flavor, and then cilantro and dill. And you think about that, cilantro, dill, tarragon. Okay, cilantro and it kind of stands alone, right? Dill, tarragon, parsley, those are kind of you'd associate them with mostly French cuisine. But then you add in the garlic, the spinach, the chive, the parsley. That's more Italian, but you add them all together, and it's interesting that you find all of these flavors in these cuisines from this region. So I'm the Kazakh or Kazakhstani beef soup is one that I really want to try. It has really, it sounds really rich. It has meat, liver. Look, don't knock liver. It's one of the most underrated flavored foods ever. And if you don't like that really strong flavor of liver, look for veal liver. Okay, really quick though. It has meat, liver, beans, eggplant, noodles, and then they add all these other seasonings in there, including garlic. So we're about at the end of this half hour. Anyway, thanks for sticking with us through the technical difficulties. The first day in the studio spooning with actual production stuff going on here. Master Ron behind the glass there, making everything work from the electronic standpoint. Anyway, come right back. We're going to talk some more food news, go over the rest of the top trends, and how to make scrambled eggs in your microwave. Not just one way, but probably 6 or 7. Did you know you can make migas in the microwave? I didn't either, but come on back. We'll show you how. Ciao for a second.
We're not solving all the world's problems, but we're bringing people to the table. Spoony. This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to
Dating
food
today with all the
and
crazies
fun.
Out there has to be nuts.
Yes, it really would. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a place you could go to find people who think like you do?
Like me, like libertarians and conservatives?
Right?
There is. WeThePeople.dating.
Amazing. What a genius idea. This is a site that you can go to if you're single and you are looking for somebody who you know you're going to think the same way, as for from a political freedom standpoint. If you want to date the right person for you, you'll find them in one place. WeThePeople.dating.
Take the pain out of ordering your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is... DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's D-I-A, thrive.com.
It looks like you're losing.
I am.
Are you losing weight?
I am losing. I've lost about 10 pounds.
How are you doing it?
Funny name, but I've done it with Riduzone, RIDUzone.com, and the stuff works. It's, you get into all that, the molecule this and the found in that. All I can tell you is it makes you feel full, and it keeps your mind off of wanting to overeat.
And also boosts your metabolism, so you're burning more.
Yeah,
Try it today. It's going to work for you like it's worked for Brad and countless other people. Riduzone.com. RIDUzone.com.
Never Forgotten Apparel is more than just a premium women's and men's clothing line. It's a movement to remind us to wear American-made and serve those who serve us. Our heroes. Never Forgotten Apparel gives 20% of their total sales to nonprofits that support homeless veterans and off-duty firefighters, and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
And we're back, Spoony listeners. Chef Patrick Mosher here. All right, so I was being told we had a little bit of an echo on Facebook. Sounds like the radio's good, though. That's good, because, who watches Facebook? No one. All right, so to that note, here's to the first live broadcast with real production equipment, and got Ron in the booth over there. I'm going to take a little sip of, this is Ultra Premium Texas Crown Club. This is a really nice blended scotch. Cheers to Spoony. And Doc Thompson and the rest of the crew here. All right. Back to our top 10 food trends for 2019 real quick. We're going to make these quick. The rest, all right. Chinese hot pot eateries will be jam-packed if you've never had a Chinese hot pot. Don't know what that is. They basically bring a lot of vegetables and meats to your table. There's a pot of boiling stock in the middle of the table, and there's actually two different sides to the stock pot. The stock pot's about 8 to 12 inches across. It has this divider in the middle. One side is really spicy, Szechuan style, and the other side has more like tomatoes, green beans, other stuff in it, and more of a basic chicken stock. And so you put the food in there, and you cook it, and then you pull it out, and you eat it. And when you eat that, you have these different sauces on the plate that you dip, or on the table that you dip them in. It's really great. It's one of my favorite ways to dine. And in Japan, they call this shabu shabu. And shabu shabu is an onomatopoeia. Is that what they call that? Onomatopoeia meaning that it sounds like the word is similar to the sound, right? So shabu shabu is what they say that shabu shabu is what they say that water, that's the sound that water makes when it boils. They're like blup 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 in English. It's shabu shabu. So anyway, so look, they're trying to fix the echo on Facebook. In the meantime, why don't you go to Spoony.com and listen, or you can go to iHeartRadio, Spoony Radio on there, and you can listen to the show there. And we'll get back to video tomorrow. It's still up now, but if you want to go listen where the audio's a little bit better, you can check it out there.
All right, so personalized foods. Number 6, personalized foods will be on the menu. What they mean is they'll take your actual blood, they take blood from your personal being, they test it, they do a little DNA testing, they take that information, and then they customize a diet that's right for you based on your blood type and some other genetic markers. And then also they modify that to based on your eating habits and your lifestyle. So that's going to be a huge trend, and I think that is as well. We're seeing that in a lot of different ways, which I'm going to mention in a moment. But this is a little more precise than what I'm going to talk about. But they'll talk about what your ratio of, say, vegetables to protein should be, what your optimum intake per meal should be. But then they also talk about your hero foods. And what your hero foods are, what you should eat every meal that you need from a micronutrient perspective, which is like, so for some people it might be like cauliflower, mushrooms, or broccolini, and those will be your personal superfoods, right? All right, so next one, and you can find that on Medium.com. That's a very interesting article to read. Number 5 on the list is modern consumers want more protein. Well, we see that with the keto diet, the paleo diet, things like that, yes, but we think that's going to continue. Now, that's true, but we think that a lot, I foresee this being a push towards a lot of vegetable-based proteins, which
we're already seeing in the general market. We're seeing that with what is the Impossible Burgers, right? Impossible Burgers or Impossible Foods, their burgers actually based on plant protein. But what's cool is when you cut it open, those little those globules, those little protein packets that look like hamburger meat, ground beef, those actually bleed. So when you cut it open, it actually has this beet dye inside that looks like makes it look like a regular hamburger, right? So the juices run out, it's the right color, looks like a medium rare or medium well hamburger. But I think we're going to see a big push in that. I think we're going to see a lot more push towards organic meats and more ethically raised produce. Look, even I'm a gluttonous eater. I admit it. I'm trying to change that. But when I see keep letting me know, by the way, if that reverberation gets better on Facebook Live, let me know. But when I'm driving down the highway and I see a truckload of chickens, right, stacked 10 high and 30 deep, and they're basically fighting off the wind going on the highway, that doesn't make me feel good. It really doesn't. But again, more ethically raised proteins, as well as the organic and naturally grazed beef and other protein sources, I think is going to be a huge push in the future. So look for inventive flavors with a global vibe. I think we're already seeing that. And actually, when we were sitting here, Doc had mentioned that overall, okay, much better. Thank you. Thanks for the input. When you think about global cuisine, we used to think about these different ethnic flavors being kind of compartmentalized and relegated to a restaurant that specialized in that. Now what we're seeing is that you had fusion food, right? Asian fusion, you had Pan-Asian fusion, you had, there's actually a kosher Mexican restaurant in Manhattan that's doing very well, by the way. I'm talking about that next week. But all of this aside, what you're seeing now is our palates are expanding, and we are demanding bigger, more interesting flavors, and not just in those ethnic restaurants, but across the board. So when we're seeing that happen, one of these, I see a picture. I specialize in Japanese food, specifically sushi, but I'm seeing this beautiful hand rolled pocket of food that has some rice, but it has other things in there that you would typically see in a hand roll. It has the fish, it has the cucumber, it has the avocado, but it actually has there's some dyed, it's these caramelized onions in there, right, from French cuisine. Then it has a little crispy onion in there as well. And then it has roe from the Japanese food, like these cured egg, the cured roe from fish. But it also has some other pickled items in there that are not traditional to Japanese. What's cool about that is you get this amazing way to deliver food in Japanese style with these other foods that can influence and enhance the flavors of the Japanese traditional hand roll. So I think we're going to see much more of that. We've seen it over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. It's going to become more and more popular. We're talking like Italian gnocchi with an Asian sauce, right? I saw the reverse of this about 10 or 15 years ago. Oh, man, I can't believe I didn't remember this story. There was a great place in Brentwood, California, just in LA, and it was called Kubo, I believe. Kubo or Kumo. I think it was Kubo. But Kumo stands out because that means bear in Japanese. That could have been the restaurant name. I went there one time, and they did this fantastic presentation where they had this beautiful board that they did the presentation of sushi pieces on. It was all these nigiri sushi, the hand-pressed pieces, right, with the fish on top. So there was like 12 or 15 pieces. And they took this board, and they raised it. They angled it up inside of a tray, a bamboo tray. And they propped it up in the back with 2 little wooden blocks, and then they put dry ice under it, and they put a little bit of water in there. And what happened is it made this smoky fog come up over the back of the tray and kind of filter down like this cascade of this smoke over the sushi. Now, it didn't flavor it, how that would be cool, but it made it look beautiful and elegant. And at the back of the tray, where the back end of the tray that was raised, they had these china berries, the white and red china berries on the branch that were up there as a garnish, right? And then these leaves underneath the presentation of sashimi and sushi, which was they had these Japanese maple leaves and some other beautiful leaves that like tea leaves, which if you've never seen the tea plant, it's basically just the leaves stick up off of the stems, and they're like giant bamboo leaves, but they can also be used to serve food on. It was beautiful. And that was one of my, so what made this unique is not just that presentation, but they took these individual pieces of sushi, and they took like a classic French sauce, right? Like a cream sauce, but they would infuse it with like wasabi. So they took this French cream sauce, and they put a little bit of wasabi powder in there, or matcha tea, which is matcha tea is the Japanese tea that we get in everything now, like Japanese tea flavored ice cream or mochi, things like that. That's an actual powdered tea, which is used for the tea ceremony. But they would take this, and they would drape this sauce, like just kind of if you had the piece of sushi from right to left, top to bottom, at a 45 degree angle, they would sauce this piece of fish or this piece of sushi. It was amazing. That was the first time I'd ever seen someone use a French sauce over what was a very traditional piece of sushi or sashimi, and it was a huge factor in how I vowed to go forward in creating sushi and sashimi dishes. But that was something that was the real true first multicultural infusion that dealt with Japanese food that I had seen, that kept both cuisines whole and then combined them together. And change maybe just a little bit of the flavoring. The classic cream sauce that was put over the seared ahi was just a true classic cream sauce. It would be basically the base for a Alfredo sauce with garlic, white wine, cream, and then let the cream basically, and shallot, and then let the cream thicken and evaporate enough to make the sauce. And to make, an Alfredo sauce, you just add the Parmesan cheese, and that's pretty much it, and a lot more Parmesan cheese. But it was really one of my favorite all-time dishes. Now they're doing these sushi burritos, and you have other ways to infuse these flavors and other cuisines into another presentation. So look for that. Again, Asian sauce with like Italian gnocchi, or trying to think of two other ones. Anyway, we'll figure it out. All right, next. Number 3, brands that Generation Z values will prize, right? What this is you think about this, we're talking about not just non-GMO brands and not just these simply, organic and whole foods, but things like CBD-infused packaged foods, right? We've talked about this a little bit on the air, and I know Doc has brought this up on his show, but we're talking about incredibly healthful items that are still whole foods. All right, so you're going to see a lot of this. Non-GMO is going to be the number 1, not to mention eco-conscious ways of raising food, thoughtful farming, right? Considerate farming, ecologically sustainable farming and ranching. But a lot of things that have this ingredients and additives which make things more healthful. All right, number 2 is vegetarian cuisine. All right, I really think that vegetarian cuisine is going to become it's going to be a huge explosive increase in consumption this year, but not from a strictly vegetarian consumer standpoint. Look, I try to eat, when I'm focused on it, 60% of my diet as vegetarian. My theory is half the plate vegetables, the other half protein and starch. That's a really simple way for me to kind of calculate what I'm eating, my intake, the number of calories. Again, protein is really dense calories, and I love getting all the flavor and variety that you get from vegetables. Because when you think about it, how many different proteins do we consume on an average basis? You have beef, pork, chicken, right? That's the big 3 in the United States. A lot of people don't eat chicken, so really it's beef and pork. A lot of people don't eat pork. That's just beef. But when you think about all the other, you have seafood, fish, crustaceans, all these other alternative protein sources, which we won't talk about, like insects and so on and so forth. But you have all this variety, but we really relegate ourselves to 2 or 3 different proteins, the average person. Now, you have eggs and things like that. But on top of that, look at the variety you have in vegetables. How many vegetables can you name off the top of your head? Napa cabbage. I'm just to go through cabbages, right? Napa cabbage. This is what do you name? The big, just regular heads of cabbage, whether red or green, right? And then you have gailan, which is Chinese cabbage, it's Chinese broccoli, but you have Chinese cabbage as well, which is a looser head of cabbage. Well, I mean, how many other cabbages are there? There are Brussels sprouts, right? So you have just easily 5 types of cabbages, right? Beans. How many beans do you have? Green beans. You have snow peas. You have sugar snap peas. You have all the dried legumes that you have, right? Now you have onions. How many different types of onions? Onion, shallot, green onion, right? What we call Tokyo negi, these bigger kind of shallot-like, I mean, not shallot, but leek-like green onions out of Japan, but you eat the whole thing, including the tops, right? Then you have leeks. You have ramps. And then you have other garlics. You have garlic, elephant garlic, red garlic. Okay, then you have fermented fermented garlic. You have all these different vegetables, right, that you can use and utilize in a way. The carrots, how many different carrots are there? There are red carrots, the purple carrots, the heirloom carrots, the regular baby carrots. You have standard orange carrots growing in the garden. Then you can take out the tops from all these root vegetables, and you can cook those as well. So you think about the variety of vegetable you get in every grocery store that you go to. What's great about that is you get all these different nutrients, micro and macro. By micro, I'm talking about these ingredients that you need in small doses, like manganese, or these things that you don't really think about in your diet. Not the vitamin A, not B, not C, right? All the different Bs. You have A, B, C, a variety of Bs. You have calcium, right? You need those in larger doses, but micronutrients are found typically in vegetables, and you need those to be able, on many occasions, to absorb the other more macro-based, right? These larger quantities of vitamins that you need. So when you think about it, though, how many different vegetables have you never tried? Right? If you have a minute, let's start hashtag Spoony Vegetables, right? Hashtag Spoony Vegetables. Go to the Spoony Radio Facebook page and list out the vegetables you haven't ever tried. You probably can't complete the list, right? Because it's innumerable. So how about the ones you have tried? How many have had? 10, 12, 15? I mean, there are so many. I mean, how many different bell peppers have you tried? Green, red, yellow, orange. How many different peppers in general? Have you had, what do we have? Anaheim peppers, right? You've got the Hatch style, the green chilies from Mexico, which are basically Anaheim style. But yeah, how many other ingredients have you not had? And then grains. How many grains have you had before? How many different grains have you had? Have you had farro wheat, farro grain? Have you had chia? Have you had pumpkin? Right? Have you had bulgur? Have you had? Trying to think. What's the other one that smells like asparagus? Right? It's quinoa, right? Or quino. One of my all-time favorite commercials, by the way. Guys standing there before the game, right? It's big game day. It's they're doing the little the tailgating in the parking lot, right? And his wife brings him a quinoa burger because the week before he had eaten one, and he goes, "Hey, honey, here's your quinoa burger, or here's your burger," and he goes, "Huh, quino burger? What is quino? I don't even know what you are." But he goes, last week when I ate you, we won. So you know what, quino? I'm going to take one for the team. Something like that. It's along those lines, but quinoa, how many people actually had quinoa? It's really delicious. Speaking of alternative grains, what about Nostalgia rice, right? You can go to SpoonyWildRice.com. And if you haven't ever tried it, wild rice is a great substitute for any rice dish. I love Japanese rice. So this kind of medium grain, it's kind of sticky. So when you try to eat it with chopstick, it doesn't fall through. You can pick up one clump at a time. But I have to tell you, the flavor is a little mild. You have to put a lot of seasoning on it, a lot of soy sauce if you're going to stir fry it. With wild rice, you don't need that. It's a very simple grain to substitute in any cold or hot rice preparation. It also becomes a great base for other things like a cold salad. If you're going to make a cold rice salad or just a cold salad in general, you can pre-bake some chicken breasts. I cook them every Sunday night, eat them throughout the week. When you need them, you slice them up. You can heat them in a pan. You can throw in some green beans, some sliced red onion, some carrots, maybe some mushrooms, saute that up, add in a little bit of teriyaki sauce, or maybe something like just some lime juice, olive oil, powdered garlic, and salt and pepper. And you could add a little honey if you want to sweeten it up, and then make that whole stir fry and put that right over the wild rice, and that's a really good hot salad. You can do the same thing with a cold salad. You can take the wild rice, all of your cold ingredients that have been cooked, blanched, otherwise prepared, throw them all together, and it makes a great cold salad. And they have a ton of other products. They have, jellies, jams, breakfast cereals. They have waffle mixes, polenta mixes, and these great soup mixes that are really easy to make. You just basically add a couple cups of water, you boil the wild rice, then you add in a little bit more hot water, you let that come to a boil, turn it off, you sprinkle the soup base in there, and it's fantastic. Anyway, that's SpoonyWildRice.com because Nostalgia is too hard to spell. So check it out. One of our great sponsors. Matter of fact, today's show is brought to you by Spoony Wild Rice. So, all right, back to the other alternative grains. Some other vegetarian food, which I think is becoming popular, but kind of fallen off the wayside. I think more people than ever have tried it, but you don't hear about it as much anymore, is tofu. We don't hear a lot about tofu anymore, but tofu is a great meat substitute. It's very easy to use, and one of my favorite ways to prepare it is you take the soft tofu, which there's soft, medium, and firm. If you take the soft tofu, or silken tofu as they call it in Japanese, you drain the water. It comes in a kind of a plastic square container that's about 4 or 5 inches deep and 6 inches wide by 5 inches across, and it's packed in water. So you peel the corner back, you drain the water, you take it out, and you cut this block of tofu into like 3 slices, like a steak. You dry it off on a paper towel, and then you get in a really hot saute pan. You bring the oil just to the smoking point. You put the sorry, I'm moving the table around and getting really hungry, getting excited about this. But you put the steak of tofu in, and you let it sear really good on one side, and you get really nice and brown. Then when you flip it, You let it cook for about another minute, and then what I like to do is you turn off the burner, and you add teriyaki sauce over the top. And then once you do that, the teriyaki sauce is going to really bubble in the pan. But then you take and you sprinkle a mixture of toasted sesame seeds and julienne or sliced green onion on top of that. And that itself really could be the protein in any meal. You pour the whole thing over a bowl of Japanese rice or wild rice or whatever your chosen grain is. It's fantastic. All right. So again, we're going to see a lot of different alternative proteins, but I think veggie cuisine is also going to be a huge, huge influencer this next couple of years. All right. Last but not least, and it took a little research. I've had both varieties of these before, but what are called spring pancakes from northern China are going to become a big trend. So this is possible. I think the benefits of this are it's street food and it's easy to consume. All right, so in China, as in many countries, in Japan, they have these rolls and nigiri, these large kind of molded rice. They're kind of a triangular shape. These rice balls that we say in English, but those are stuffed with different flavors. They may have tuna fish inside. They may have spicy tuna inside. They may have pickled vegetables inside, but in China, what they do is they make these things kind of like a crepe or a tortilla, much like they do in France, and then they fill them with a variety of fillings. Now, one of them is called, they are called jianbing. Jianbing are like crepes, right? Those typically have like egg and savory fillings. They'll have a sweet sauce, perhaps, right? Like a slightly sweetened, thickened soy sauce or something like that. These are really good for breakfast and lunch. But that's pretty true. Almost all of them have egg and like a green onion filling. They may have meats in them as well. Now, the other ones are called chunbing. All right. And chunbing are more of a crepe or like a pancake, right? And these come out during a holiday. Typically they come out during what is the holiday? It's in spring. It's called Li Chun. Li Chun is a holiday. That's the advent of spring, and these have a variety of fillings. But anyway, I don't know if this is going to be the number one go-to trend of 2019. I would think more of the Chinese cuisine in general, and especially, oh man, I'm telling you, I really hope, and I actually think that these dim sum restaurants are going to make a huge comeback. I love dim sum. Dim sum are like these small bites that you get. If you haven't been to a dim sum restaurant, go to, if there is a Korea or Asian town or Chinese area, especially highly densely populated Chinese area of your city. Go there and ask if there is a dim sum restaurant, or just go online and look it up. But dim sum, they have such a variety of food. They'll have everything from, and I know it kind of sounds kind of gross, but steamed chicken feet, which is really good. Actually, they have like kind of a sweet, salty soy sauce on them. And they'll have everything from that to these steamed buns that are called cloud spools. It's basically this rice dough that's stuffed with savory meat and sometimes sweet items as well. But then they're steamed, and they're like this fantastic puffy, doughy, hot pocket. It's basically, think about Hot Pockets with this pizza dough on the outside, which are really not really good. It's like that, but it's lighter, it's airy, and it's this really fresh and flavorful, just this burst of flavor in your mouth when you eat it. And then, okay, I'm starting to salivate. Now, they have like 15 or 20 different types of regular dumplings, right? They'll have shumai, and shumai are one of my favorites. Shumai are like the open top dumpling that are straight-sided. They'll typically have a pork filling and with vegetables inside. And what's interesting is that whatever is on top of those, it's like a small cylinder with no lid on it, right? Whatever's on top indicates what the ingredient inside is. So typically a pea will indicate it's a primarily vegetable filling. You may have, or maybe carrots on top will indicate that it's pork, but that's how they tell what they're serving you. And then you have these things like they'll have these taro. Taro is this fantastic root, by the way, that grows in a lot of Asian countries and is grown in Hawaii. And it's a really, really high starch content root. And taro, they shred it up and they make this kind of this batter from it, and they'll stuff that with with a pork filling or a beef filling, a really, really savory, really, really highly seasoned pork filling. And then they fry it. And the way they fry it, if you can imagine what the meteorite looked like, the surface of the meteorite from the movie Armageddon, it looks like that. It's got these cracks and crevices, but it's really super crunchy on that side. I mean, almost like, oh my God, I don't know what to, it's like if you took the crunch of English toffee, but it's savory. That's the crunch it has on the outside. And it's slightly doughy in the next layer, and then it has this big punch of flavor in the middle. That's my favorite. And I can't think of the name in it. I've only seen it in a few places. In Denver was my favorite place, and I'm not sure. I'm sure it's still open, but they had this huge restaurant that was one of the best dim sum places I've been to. All right, so I'm hoping that that's direction cuisine goes, and I'm not sure I buy all these top 10 food trends for the next year, but we'll keep an eye on it. All right, real quick, because we have limited resources here in the studio, we only have a hot skillet, big electric skillet, and a microwave to cook with. There's an easy way to make microwaves or scrambled eggs in the microwave in less than a minute. And I love scrambled eggs. So does Doc. So you can make poached eggs. Poached eggs really easy. Basically, half cup of water, 1 egg inside. Or third a cup rather. Crack an egg in it. Half teaspoon of vinegar if you have it. If not, just a little salt. And you cook it on 50% power for a minute. And you can go a little longer, like another 15 seconds if you need to set the yolk up a little more. It's a perfect poached egg every time. Scrambled eggs. This is really easy. Basically, 1 egg, a little bit of milk, and a pinch of salt and pepper. And you put it on high power for 40 seconds, take it out, ice stir it, and put it in for another 10 to 20 seconds. It's absolutely done. Now, you can add cheese to that, chopped bacon, whatever you want. Huevos rancheros. Oh, man, one of my all-time favorites. You take, in a big mug, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1/2 chopped green onion. You got a half cup of chopped tomato, a quarter teaspoon of cumin, and you heat that in the microwave for a minute until the scallions kind of cook through and it'll start to be opaque and translucent. You add in 1/2 avocado, diced, 2 teaspoons of salsa, 1 tablespoon of cilantro, chopped up, dash of hot sauce, quarter cup of grated cheese, and crack a large egg over the top and season with salt and pepper on the top. 5 or 6 tortilla chips, nestle them around the egg, and then you microwave that for 1 to 2 minutes. It is unbelievable. Matter of fact, I'm going to try to make one tonight. I'll put it on the air tomorrow. All right. Oh, I can't get through the rest of the recipes. We'll get to the rest of those tomorrow. Anyway, hey, don't forget where to find us. Spoony.com. At Spoony Radio on all the social media pages. You can go to Spreaker, find the Spoony Radio podcast. We're going to put, come in the next week. In the next week, I'm going to have all the hosts up. You'll be able to listen to all their weekly shows as well as the upcoming daily shows. Again, look, thanks for tuning in. Come back tomorrow. I got a good show. This is Chef Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro, right here on Spoony Radio. Ciao for now.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump says the idea of a border wall is not only his, but actually